Hey everyone, I thought I'd do a short review of the new characters that came out as part of the Final Fantasy XIV crossover event in Nier Reincarnation. So we got three new characters. We got a Ryon, who looks to be not that strong in all honesty. We got a new Noelle, who is definitely going to be very high tier for subjugation and probably will be very viable in PvP as well as a main damage dealer. And then lastly, we got a version of 063Y, the bald-headed man, who I also think is kind of suboptimal, just quickly. So I'll start with Ryon since he's kind of the first character. So he's got massive HP, 68,992. Not many other characters would have that much health. Pretty good attack for a Ryon, in all honesty, with 4,667. His defense at 3977 is really strong as well. We look at his character skill, 200% damage to all enemies with a 30% chance to stun. Honestly, stun and some versions of agility up are probably the most useless abilities in the game. Some agility ups are useful for PvP, but not all. But yeah, that character skill is really bad. And unfortunately, if the character has a bad character skill, they're usually not very viable. He also has Valiance, which gives all allies an attack up of 15%, which is pretty handy, but there's other units that have that are much better. And then Luminous Leap, which will increase the stats of light affinity weapons for 20%. His weapon is a pretty interesting one. So the first weapon ability or weapon skill is to recover 10% health for all allies and then curing one status ailment. He's got a defense up, a really good lucid boon of 30%, and then toughness of 15%. The weapon has massive HP, which is probably its main selling point along with the lucid boon. So it might be good as a sub-slot weapon to beef up a support character in subjugation. That's really probably the only use outside of tower. We'll move on to the main draw of this collaboration, which is the new Noelle. So she's got 49,000 HP, which is pretty decent. A massive attack. I think this is the biggest base attack in the game of 6,721. Really good defense actually, 3,960. And then no agility buffs. Her character skill is insane. So 120% damage to one enemy 5 times, with crit damage increasing by 60%. So that's like 660 or more, I suppose, damage. And it buffs her own attack by 15% for 30 seconds. That's going to be so good for subjugation. Like, we could be looking at a triple S character here. Bare minimum, she's SS. Like, that character skill is better than A2's for sure. So she could definitely replace A2, depending on the memoirs you have. She has an attack up of 25% with her Vigor ability. And then she has an interesting crit rate up, where she gives all allies an increased crit rate of 10%. So not quite as good for herself as just regular ambush, but she's boosting her teammates as well, which is kind of crazy. Her weapon is also really good. So massive attack, 2,857. Really good defense, 2,200. Her first skill will boost critical hit rate by 20% for 10 seconds for all allies. That's pretty good. She's got a 30% for 30-second buff to her own attack, or to whoever's holding the weapon's attack. And then Vigor and Ambush, which are both great sub-slot abilities. So she's really good and by far looks like the best character in this collab. The last character is 063Y. His HP is insane, 97,000. I don't have the other tanky version of him. I'm not sure what the HP stat is on that one, but this is huge. Might be the biggest in the game. Pretty middling attack and defense, both about 3,500. His character skill does 110% damage to one enemy 4 times, so pretty good damage, and recovers 20% of his own HP, and buffs his dark damage, so that's actually quite a good skill. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have the base stats to back it up. Really good toughness buff there of 20%. And then a Void Leap where he'll increase the stats of dark weapons for the party. So he's going to be a big tanky guy. I don't think he'll really have a role in PvP. I think if you don't have the other version of 063Y, maybe you could use him in a tanky team. But I couldn't see him necessarily being better than the other version. Of course, he's going to be a beast in tower, and for some high difficulty quests, which I think is where he'll get his best use. Subjugation, I can't really see a role for him. His weapon is kind of interesting and kind of bad at the same time. So it has a provoke, 35% damage to one enemy 5 times, and all damage taken down by 10% for 3 times, 3 turns I guess. Massive HP, 38,000, attack 2,700, decent defense 1,800. He has a 30% buff for 30 seconds to his own attack with the weapon. And then the weapon also has vigor and toughness, so increase to attack and HP. So pretty lame weapon in all honesty. I guess lastly I'll go over to the event and have a look at the event weapon. I think it could be a pretty handy sub-slot weapon. It's not going to be super high tier or anything like that, but I definitely think there's some sort of place to use it. So Misos, I don't play Final Fantasy 14, so sorry if I butchered the name of it. Pretty decent attack, decent defense. If we just look at its abilities, it's got a Vigor and an Aegis buff as part of its abilities. The Vigor buff's pretty decent, it'll be 15% at max. Aegis, it's okay. But the real draw of this weapon is it has a 30% damage increase for yourself for 30 seconds, which seems to be a bit of a theme of the weapons of this collaboration. So it's good for buffing your own attack, I suppose, on a main damage dealer if you don't have anything else. So really, out of this whole collaboration, all you should be trying to do is get Noelle, and as many copies of her as possible. It might even be worth if you get her, like, saving a couple of her weapon, since it seems really good. But if you can get her to level 90 and you've got her slab to say 60%, you're going to be smashing those scores on subjugation. Anyway, that was my quick review of the new crossover characters. If anything new comes out, or any new characters over the next few days, I don't think they're handing anything out, but I'll do a quick review on those as well. Alrighty, catch you guys in the next one.